How to calculate a carbon budget for your city. Global carbon budgets are used to set national policy commitments on limiting greenhouse gas emissions. Cities can take a science-based approach to setting climate change targets by adopting a carbon budget, which can define long-term targets and prevent exceeding the total budget. A local carbon budget downscales the global carbon budget to local areas and helps cities to understand how to tackle climate change through local action and help them stay well below the 2 degrees centigrade of global warming. Much like a financial budget, a carbon budget sets out how much CO2 can be spent over a fixed time period. To allocate a share of this budget, different data sets are needed depending on the method used. Each approach has advantages and disadvantages, but a city can decide what works for them based on the data available. Let's explore these options and see what option worked for each city. Modena, Italy. Population. The per capita approach is where the carbon budget is shared equally based on the relative proportion of the city's population to the national population. GDP at city scale is not available in Modena, only at country level. They therefore chose the per capita model for a more accurate calculation. For some cities, this may not be a fair or equitable distribution if per capita carbon emissions are uneven in the country. The main advantage is that this data is easily accessible and is simple to communicate as it follows the equality principle. Bistrița, Romania. Economic. The carbon budget is shared based on the city's proportion of national GDP. Therefore, areas with more economic activity get a larger proportion of the budget. Bistrița used this method by taking its population data, calculated its growth rate for both national and city data to create an average figure. This took into consideration the intensity of economic activity at city level, including activities where commuters are involved, not just the population or residents of the city. Manchester, UK. Grandfathering. Grandfathering shares a national carbon budget. An average proportion of national CO2 emissions over recent years are combined with more localised emissions data for energy and transport to create a city's carbon budget. The resulting budget will reflect the current carbon intensity of the city. In the UK, reliable and consistent information for greenhouse gas emissions are collected nationally and form the basis of the scatter model developed by Anthesis. The Tyndall Centre Manchester created a carbon budget for the city by including more localised energy and transport data, allowing us to track and monitor the progress for cities' emissions reduction. Like the global carbon budget, how the budget is spent is a policy decision. There will be trade-offs between using more of the budget in the near term and having less available in subsequent years. To help understand where to focus action, a separate tool developed by Anthesis has been used to describe the scale of activity needed to stay within the carbon budget from its buildings, transport and energy. Calculating a carbon budget and understanding the scale of action helps a city to set policies, clarify immediate and long-term actions, enable collaborative change, share a carbon limit across specific timescale,